Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to It's Doomsday Podcast. Today is 4/17/2022. Time is 18:10. And happy Easter, Al.
Happy Easter, Jester. Happy Easter to everyone out there in the world.
Yes, happy Easter, guys. I know you're not going to hear this on Easter, but, happy Easter to everybody. I hope everybody had a good weekend with family and you guys got together and maybe do the Easter egg hunts for the kids and all that good kind of fun stuff.
It's raining here in Arkansas, so they usually do it the day before on Saturday. So yesterday they got a little bit of open weather where they could do it, but yeah, it's raining here today. So I'm glad most everybody got a chance to do it yesterday. But happy Easter,
Right.
everybody!
So yeah, we did the Easter egg hunt here for the kids with the restaurant schedule and trying to keep it going. We miss a lot of like the public type events that go on in town,
Right.
so we kind of have to do things ourselves. But we did the Easter egg hunt. Kids liked it. They ate a bunch of sugar, and now they're all passed out taking naps. So it's good time.
Yeah.
It's good time.
Yeah, it's good time. Good time.
So, guys, today's show is going to be on militias. That's what we're going to get into. And this episode was requested by TikTok user Nutty88, which is one of my followers on TikTok. He's a good guy. He participates a lot and likes to comment and definitely participates. If you guys get on the TikTok and talk to me and Al on there, and if you want to request something, guys, you can do that.
Absolutely.
This is a great way to get a hold of us. I'm on TikTok at It's Doomsday Podcast 2.0. Al's on there at big_daddy_prep. And the email, it's doomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. If you guys want to hear something, drop a line. It's that easy. All right. So to get into the malicious side of this, like you guys know, me and Al, we don't compare notes or anything before we start these shows, and we just kind of let them happen organically. Al, first thought for me for the militias, we need them to help. They need to be there for the benefit of our country. We do need them. However, if you're a prepper and you're one of these individuals, I think associating with these kind of groups can be bad. I'm double-sided with this, but what do you think?
Well, I kind of have a two-sided opinion on that, but listen now, understand that even though now government and things act as if they don't see militias as being a legitimate thing. I mean, the government's actually anti-militia. Previously, earlier in our government's, existence, they actually saw the militias as being a good thing. So even the government's fickle on this. This is a very fickle issue. It's not a clear, straight. There's a lot of gray areas here, but I agree with you.
I've been requested to join a militia before. I am not part of one. And I've talked to multiple people that want to form groups and do these types of things. Okay. And for me, it's risky. You're associating with too many people that could be on a watch list for starters. Okay. Because you've got I don't care who you are. Everybody looks at a militia as an extremist group, and that's where the problem kind of lies. It's one thing to formulate like a prepper community and have a plan. This is where we're going to go if shit hits the fan. These are our rations. This is what we have. This is our supply list. It's good to have a group. It's good to have people to have your back to protect against marauders and to help, form community, work gardens, work the land, things like that. Absolutely awesome. Militarizing these groups is going to be looked at in a very bad light in the eyes of the government. The government typically doesn't worry about one person as an individual. They worry about groups of people that start becoming radicalized. And that's why I'm so on the fence about this.
Jester, the biggest thing that we need to understand is before we can understand anything about militias, we have to actually understand what the definition of militia is. And as defined by Google, the very first thing that came up, it says a military force that is raised from the civilian population to supplement a regular army in an emergency. Creating a militia was no answer to the army's manpower problem. And then there's two caveats to this: is a military force that engages in rebel or terrorist activities in opposition to a regular army, and all able-bodied civilians eligible by law for military service. So that's the first definition that came up, but that, to me, that was kind of squirrely, to be honest with you, because militias aren't necessarily that. Militia groups have kind of been looked at negatively over the last 30, 40 years. But previous to that, militias were actually looked upon by the public and the military and the government as being a good thing, as last defense to the country, i.e., the military could not respond adequately, that the civilian population would be able to quell a disturbance, whether it be foreign or domestic, against the government itself. Of course, we understand over the last 30 or 40 years that the government has become anti-militia. That's because of the evolution of more leftist ideas, making the ideology that people that are outside the government are negative. And that's not necessarily true. But another definition of militia is is generally an army or some other fighting organization, non-professional soldiers, citizens of a country, or subjects of a state who will perform military service during a time of need. Now, a lot of the information that I've gathered over the last couple weeks, we've been looking at these militia activities and preparing for this show. Militias have gotten a very negative name in the public because of the government and frankly, the mainstream media. When they talk of militias nowadays, they talk of mostly far right groups, the quote unquote neo Nazis, the Trumpers, the this and that and other. And that's not really true. Although, do I agree with necessarily malicious? They shouldn't be a necessary evil. No, they should not be, because we as citizenry should be able to quell anything that happens, and our military ought to be able to defend us. But I do understand why militias form, because frankly, they don't agree with the government or the protection of themselves or the government itself. Leading me to say, I'm kind of on the fence. I know you're kind of on the fence too about this, but I'm kind of on the fence of whether militias are good or bad. But I do understand the need for them, and the need that they think that there is. Understand that militias also aren't just those that they identify now in mainstream media as being, white supremacist groups and right-wing groups. They're all kind of militias. I mean, the Black Panthers, they qualify as a militia. Lots of other organizations, whether they be legal or illegal organizations, they qualify under these established rules as being militias. So if you say one type of militia is bad, then they would all have to be bad. And certainly the mainstream media and those in the say so nowadays, they wouldn't want to say that. But that's my opinion. I've looked at the definition, and a lot of other organizations, they qualify as militias too.
I completely understand that. And I guess that was something I didn't think about. Like you talk about, the Black Panthers or these other groups. I never made that connection, but that does make sense. But now when we talk about the idea of, militias being like a necessary type thing and beneficial, I want to explain something to you guys that a lot of people don't know about. And what I'm going to explain is the state defense forces. When people hear state defense force, they don't think militia, but that's exactly what these are. Okay. It's not the National Guard. It's something totally different. Does it count as the military? Yes. And these are state ran militias. And hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com. Other states have had these, and they've dissipated. Florida used to have one. I heard that they're trying to get it back together again. I know North Carolina used to have one. I read something about it a long time ago when I was researching these state-ran militias about how there was a workers' comp claim by somebody that was within the militias, and then they shut it down. They were like, we're not having this anymore. Now, the state defense and orders basically from the state. Okay, they're not federal by any means. All right, they are under basically government order, and they get state funding, or governor order, not government, governor order, and they get state funding. You will typically see these guys come out and help during natural disasters. If the National Guard's too busy doing something, you might see these guys be activated to come out and help out. This is all on a voluntary basis. If you guys want some sort of sense of military in your life, if you enjoy that regulated type lifestyle, this is something maybe you'd want to check out if you live within one of these states that I mentioned off of this list. Again, they go out, they do training, and they do have their own sort of like special operations. I mean, these guys aren't going out armed, right? It's
Right.
And it's not a group of people that are going against the state or against the government. They're there to try to help, hence why they get state funding.
Right.
But that's it. So when we talk about militias and them labeling them, do understand that a lot of states have these and they do use them. And a
Correct,
lot
they
more
do.
did used to have them.
And there are state funded and non-state funded. This whole gamut of militias goes all the way from this one little guy and his two little friends that go out on the weekends and shoot, calling themselves a militia, all the way up to like state funded militias. There's a wide gamut in here. So when you say militia, it's a wide gamut. It's like a shotgun spray. You get a little bit of everything. But I do remember an incident happening after the big tornado they had in Tennessee and Kentucky a couple months ago. I think it was about 3 months ago, Jester, that there was a state militia there. They called themselves a state militia, but they went to assist and to help after a tornado. They were basically told by the sheriff and law enforcement that they didn't need their type there. So that the understanding that a lot of law enforcement, a lot of states, and a lot of federal governments or federal entities don't want to hear anything from the militias because they've got such a bad name. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily all doing bad. It's just that there's no clear cut defined, this is what a militia is. And I think that's kind of a problem on their behalf because a lot of them have not really made their presence and their ideology along with what they do publicly known. There's a lot of secrecy to it. I found that out over the last week doing a little research, asking a few questions, and you get very vague answers. But I understand why, because a lot of them are ex-military, ex-police officers, correction officers. Some people just good old boys that have been around for a long time that might have previous military experience, and they just don't trust the government, Jester. That's the thing, and I can understand that, but trying to find out a lot from the outside is not easy. It was it for me.
Well, okay, so here's what I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit with this. I don't want to stay on it too long.
Mhm.
Whenever we had all the Black Lives Matter riots going on, okay, I had a buddy of mine that was requested by the sheriff's office, him and a few members of his family, to show up in downtown armed, right, in case things broke bad. Because
Right,
they saw what was going on around the country, and they didn't know how bad it was going to get in their town. They were worried people were going to come in from, out of the cities into these rural communities and do damage. So they,
right.
they got with him and they were like, "Hey, dude, you guys need to show up, bring your stuff, because if things really break bad, we don't have the manpower to deal with it." All right. And
Very true.
again, you saw this with Kyle Rittenhouse. That's basically what him and his buddies did.
Yep.
Right. They showed up to help keep. I mean, so these things could also they could fall into the realm of militias. Now, I think one thing that really gave the militias a bad name was the involvement with Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bombing, and who he was tied to, Terry Nichols and all those guys. Right.
Correct.
So I think that created a bad stigma for militias. So now everybody has this mentality that these militias are a bunch of gun-toting, white supremacist, extreme right-wing guys that are hiding out in the middle of nowhere with a stockpile full of weapons, and they're just waiting for a reason to use them.
Right.
And that's not the case. It's
No,
really not. When you talk
Jester,
about
the things I found out over this last week, you hear the stigma out there of what was been, but the government, Jester, as much as anybody has given the stigma to these groups, because you just like you said, the whole situation there with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, the first thing they got to bring up is he a member of a militia, and then other things that happened, are they members of militias? They go after that. They don't go after the good things that these militias might do. I mean, there's a lot of things they go after. Just like you said, someone requested them to be there. That story doesn't get out, but the sheriff that didn't want them there, that story definitely would get out. It's a bad PR thing. To me, it is. But a lot of these militias are not bad guys, and they don't have bad intentions. If anything, they have good intentions. They're good Constitution loving, patriot Americans. But I don't blame them for being very secretive. I don't blame them at all, because a lot of these groups get infiltrated by people that mean them harm, mean to take them down, mean to take away their abilities to do what they do. And and I know nowadays with government the way it is right now, they're hunted, they're on wanted lists. They're on lists of people that the government wants to get rid of, whether they've done anything wrong or not. So I can't blame the secrecy. But I did do a lot of research this week, but I never ever want to ever dispel names or things that I found out, because I'm not like that. I'm one of those guys that I don't tell what I know. But a lot of these militia groups are seeing huge amounts of people that are trying to come into them now. So, Jester, they're being very selective in what they say. They're being very selective in who they get or take in, because they don't want to take in someone that means them harm. But the numbers are freaking up with the applications. There's no question about that. I mean, they're seeing like a 300 and 400% fold of people trying to come in.
right, and I think that you guys need to understand too. There's a big difference between militias and cults.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's a big thing to consider. I don't. If you tell me, hey, I'm part of a militia, I mean, cool. I don't have a problem with it.
Yep.
But what I do have a problem with is like how I was saying, we're talking about the stigma with this, how it's looked at, how they're investigating these people, how these people end up on lists. That is the scary side of this.
Yep.
Now, for the prepper standpoint, I don't like it. And I don't like it specifically because you're talking about associating yourself with a group of people. Okay, the more people that you associate with, the more people know what you have in your stockpile.
True.
They maybe know what weapons you have that they could take from you. They might know your weak points. They might know your family. They might know what makes you tick. They might know how to destroy you if things really broke bad.
Yep.
And even if these guys seem like humble and awesome in the very beginning of the situation, if things really do break bad, they might screw you over real quick. I mean, let's
Yes.
let's let's face it. Let's be honest about something. There's a lot of people who are fake friends or fake people. They're friends with you now, but that doesn't mean they won't screw you over when things really break bad. So
Very true.
that's kind of why I don't really like the idea of militias for prepping. But again, if you're someone that wants to join one for not the idea of prepping, if you want that regimented lifestyle, if maybe you want to learn some extra skills, maybe you want to go out and get more exercise and you want to be a benefit to your community, things like that. When you talk about the state defense forces, absolutely go join up. Okay. It's all volunteer. The guys definitely need the help. All right. So in that respect, I'd say go do it.
You would be surprised, Jester, the people that apply and become members of these organizations. It's not what the perception is. There are doctors, lawyers, there are professional people, there are regular everyday hardworking people, mechanic. There's all kinds of people that gravitate to these militias. But like a lot of organizations out there, they keep their allegiances very, very secretive, and they keep their roles very secretive because they don't want to be identified as, because you and I both know nowadays you can get outed for anything. I mean, let's face it, doxing and outing of things is commonplace nowadays. If something happens and a specific group of people do something, something's um linked back to a militia. Any militia at that point is fair game for the media or for, cancellation. People have to worry about their livings and what they do. So a lot of these group members, they don't talk about their allegiances. They really don't. I found that out. But one other thing that I have to do with the prepping community is, in a prepping situation where you're prepping for something bad in your small group, I don't think these allegiances would do you much good, because most of these people are in a regional area. Now, regionally, within 100 miles of you, you could have 25 of these members. But we all know if something really bad happens, 25 miles is going to be a long distance. 100 miles is going to be like a world away if there's no communications and things went bad. I mean, frankly, your immediate area is what you're going to have to worry about. And I don't see any of these groups, and I've not identified any of these groups that are that tightly knit, that are that tightly within proximity of each other. So I don't know how it would really work out, other than, if they were told to go to a specific area to assist, that'd be one thing. But on your day-to-day basis, I can't see where it would help you that much. I agree with you on that point.
Well, that was something I didn't take into consideration. I'm glad you brought that up as far as being a regional thing. So understand, if you're part of that militia, bugging out at that point may not be an option, for the prepper side of this.
Right.
And also, do understand, if you're wanting to get into one of these militias, I mean, their goal is to, be prepared to fight if things really do break bad. So you're putting yourself in the fight right off the bat.
Right.
Something I try to tell preppers all the time is, your best bet for survival in an apocalyptic scenario is to avoid conflict. You don't
Right.
want it. You don't want to be out there running and gunning. You don't want to be out there fighting. Like, your best bet is just to stay away from people. And I don't know how many of us out there have ever done any like hand-to-hand combat or any of these things. You get injured real quick. There's
Yeah.
no going to the emergency room in Doomsday. If you break your wrist punching somebody in the side of the head, you're not going to get that treated unless you have a doctor within your group. Now,
Right.
and the other thing is, if you're considering joining one of these groups, you need to greatly assess this. Okay. And what I mean by that is, some of these groups are highly organized. They could absolutely 100% survive. They have everything they need. Everybody's there, and they're a force to be reckoned with. Okay.
Right.
Then you have some that are these very unorganized individuals who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Okay. And
Hmm.
they are the ones that are going to be dangerous. They are the sloppy, not well put together. And here's the other thing too. If you meet people in passing and they start talking about how they're part of one of these groups and you should join up, to me that's a red flag in the very beginning.
Yep.
Okay,
I
that
agree.
that's a big red flag. Now, if you get to know somebody and you've known them for a while and you get to know each other's backgrounds, and then they maybe bring it up to you maybe 6 months after knowing them, yeah, okay, then that's a little bit different. But if anybody that that you would consider an acquaintance brings this up, like, you should join up, don't do that.
Right.
Don't do it. I've done this show for 2 years, over 2 years. A lot of people know that I prep. I've had a lot of people come to me and tell me, we need to formulate a community. We need to have this going, that going. And my response to them is just kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a select group of people within my circle. Is it a militia? No, it's absolutely not a militia. It's simply a group of people to where if shit breaks bad, we're going to get together and we're going to hang out, because we're going to need people to do things. We're going to need people to help garden. We're going to need people to go hunt for food. We're going to need people to help protect against marauders or crazy people that might show up and try to take our shit. Right.
Right.
So, but I would not define my group at all as a militia. I don't even know, like, absolutely not. I don't even think
Right.
it would be big enough to even be much of a fighting force,
Right.
but again,
Well,
just things to consider.
well, let me tell you something I was told by somebody a long time ago, and I found it recently doing some of this research. Is true. The better the militia, the harder it is to find them and find out about them. The easier it is to find out about them, the less you want to do with them. We're talking about all the way from the Bubba and his friends that want to be something. You got two or three old grumpy guys that are are pissed off at the world, and a bunch of young kids that don't know their ass in the hole to the ground. And then the opposite side, the ones you don't find out about are the ones that are really, really, really regimented and well organized. Now, those the government are way more worried about than the bub over here. And understand, as a prepping situation, the most dangerous thing to you is going to be those wannabes and those, I call them redneck Rambos. Those are going to be dangerous folks to you. They're going to bring heat to you every single day. And frankly, none of this has to do with anything you saw in a TV show or a movie. If they reference any crap like that, you better stay away from those folks. Because I'm going to tell you something, every day in an actual bad grid down situation, it's going to be about your survival. And the least amount of conflict and interaction that you have, the better off you're going to be. Um, I take a lot of things that I learned from the world over a period of time and I kind of put them together. And I did the same thing for this show. I've met a lot of people over years that were associated, that were ex military people, and they have little groups of people. They don't call themselves per se militias, but I assure you, when something bad happens, they know where to find each other and they know what they're going to do. That right there would be more reliable to me than any organized militia that you might have. If you have an opportunity to network with people of like minds that have skills, you'll be much better off than quote unquote an organized militia, unless you're in the immediate living area with them. Okay. Someone that's 25 to 50 miles away from you or 100 miles away from you, organized within a state is not going to do you that much good. I'm just being honest with you. I'm giving you my 40 years of practical prepping here. It's not going to do you any good. Those within 10 miles of you, yeah, okay, I'm down with that. But man, if it's over 20 miles, I don't see you're going to do me any good, because I'm gonna have a hard time doing anything for you, and you're gonna have a hard time doing anything for me. That's just my honesty right there. But the more the more prevalent something is, and the more they brag about it, and the more they tell you you need to get in it, the more you need to stay away from it. Those that don't encourage you, you find out by accident, or someone brings it up later on in a conversation, you had no idea they were there. Well, then that might be a reliable organization, but I'd be very careful about any organization that I joined. And I would certainly be very careful about giving out your personal information, because I understand now those alphabet agencies, those 3 letter agencies, they infiltrate these groups all the time. It's happened numerous times that I can just think off my head. So, I mean, how did the people in certain situations find out that you're doing something illegal? They had someone to infiltrate you. So that's just
Right.
a warning.
And yeah, so like when you look at the big stories from the 90s, Ruby Ridge, Waco, the Oklahoma City bombing, all of these groups were infiltrated,
Yes.
right?
Everyone.
The only one they didn't infiltrate enough to prevent the Oklahoma City bombing thing could have been prevented if they would have did a better job of infiltration. Because that group was being watched.
Right.
Like, it absolutely was. I don't. If you guys see these groups out there putting themselves on display, just stay away. Stay away. Stay away. Don't get yourself involved. Don't get your family involved. And for me, you're better off investing your time in your immediate family, doing your little disaster preparedness routine with your family, having your food stocks, maybe having your weapons and whatever it is you decide to have within your group, your immediate family, things like that, and getting far, far away from these individuals. Okay. I know everybody likes the idea of having an ally, and I know everybody likes the idea that there's power in numbers. All right. But you guys got to think, these groups are only going to be successful if there's a complete collapse of the U.S. government. Do you think a militia full of 30 guys is going to be able to go up against the U.S. military? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Absolutely not. So this is okay. Foreign invasion, you might have a chance, okay, because you may have the upper hand over the enemy. Maybe. If you're trying to go up against the U.S. government, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not going to end well for you.
No.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't take into consideration. And that's why I prefer these groups versus like the militia side of this for me, because the US military is not, or the US government's not too worried about me sitting up here in my cabin with a handful of guys I talk about prepping with and gardening with, and you know, like, hey, if shit ever breaks bad, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to
Right.
go. They're not worried about that. But they are worried about the guys that are highly organized, that have all these weapons, that have all this shit going on, and that have like big, you know, militarized plans of you know, ways to take action when things break bad.
Right. Jester, I was told by some people, you know, I can't say where, but I was told that these things were much easier back in the 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s when there wasn't the surveillance state there is. But we have to admit now in the United States, we're just the underling to China and other places that have a complete vision, as I say, of what you do on a daily basis. Every piece of information that you do, every telephone call, every text is monitored. The 70s, 80s, and the 90s, it wasn't like that. These groups could form, they could pretty much stay secretive, they could talk back and forth. It was harder for those three-letter agencies to be able to investigate and find out. But today, oh no. Today, everything that you say, every text you send, every email you send, everything that you do, your phone is your biggest spy. You carry your spyware right on you. If you were going to do this today in this modern society, you'd have to get away from the comforts of what you enjoy, which is your phone, your internet, your things like that. Everything would have to be pretty much rudimentary if you were going to continue to do this without anyone finding out about it. That's the reason why a lot of these groups, they've already been infiltrated. The government knows what they're doing. They know everybody that's part of them, what their training routine. They take great pride in knowing what these people are doing. When they say that someone's on a watch list, you're on 12 watch lists. They know every move that you make, every financial transaction that you make, but we're following behind China and other countries that watch everything their citizenry do. So don't think you're going to go out and form a group and you're going to be secretive, because you're not going to be nowadays, unless you could wean yourself totally off the things that we've gotten used to. Big tech. I mean, big tech tells on you. That's just my opinion, but that's what I was told, that it's a different kind of militia than there was back in those days when people knew how to keep their mouths shut. People don't keep their mouths shut today. They'll put on social media exactly what they're doing. Hey, I'm spending the weekend. Here's a selfie of me and my boys out, doing our militia training. That was unheard of back in those days. They didn't want you knowing anything about them. So today's militias are way different than it was back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when nothing was really going on.
No, I totally agree with you. And on that point, since we're, you know, going back in time here a little bit, the state defense forces that I mentioned earlier, they were utilized way more back then.
Right.
Okay. And I don't know, I don't really know why they're not utilized as much today. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's a lot more stuff going on than what I know. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there's in one of these state defense forces, and they're probably going to send me an email saying, dude, you're wrong. But, you know, so be it. If they are doing a lot of operations, it might not be as prevalent to the general public. Okay.
Right.
And the cool thing about these state defense forces is these guys they basically have like a charter that they can write up and send into the governor's office to request different things. All right. Which is what's cool about it. So if you decide yourself, well, Jester, I like the idea of being in the militia, but I don't want to get into one of these secret groups, and you do decide to go this route, this isn't something you really need to cover up because it is considered military. So
Right.
just be aware of that. Like how Al mentioned, yeah, these guys are taking selfies at the weekend of their training. The state defense forces don't matter. Like it's well known. You're on a list when you get in there. You're going to be fine. But
Right.
since we are talking about the watch list a little bit,
Yeah.
I
The
can
famous watch list.
I could guarantee you I'm on one. I can guarantee you
Yep.
Al's probably on one.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. I'm on it.
So
I'd be mad if I'm not.
yeah,
I'd be really pissed off. I want to know who to complain to if I'm not on one. I
you
really do.
gotta wear that like a badge of honor.
Right. It's true.
So, I mean, and that's the thing. Being that, you know, we are in the surveillance state and we are being watched, this makes it really hard to even want to get involved with these things. All
Right.
right. That we are not that free that people think we are.
No.
Okay. Anybody that is, pro 2A, anybody that's a prepper, anybody that's, former law enforcement, military background that's actually out on social media speaking up about certain things, they're on a list. I
Yep.
guarantee it.
I
And
agree.
and the only thing that really, like, I understand the list. I don't like the surveillance state. I don't. But the thing that pisses me off is, like, you're really going to put me on a list and invest taxpayer money to listen to me just hang out in my cabin and talk about prepper shit? Like,
Right.
that's worth taxpayer money? Come on.
Right. Jester, this is the irony about and I'm going to be honest with you. I am not no way, shape, or form am I anti-militia. I'm probably very pro-militia in a lot of ways, but but the way things are today with the surveillance state, way things are today, how one group of people is identified as a militia and another one is called a cultural change group, or they're anything but militias in the public sense, but they are militias, but they're not treated like so. Understand, when you talk about the government and the three other agencies checking you out, they have infiltrated every single major motorcycle gang, every major uh, governmental entity that the government hates. Okay, anything that the government, the FBI identify on a watch list as being groups that they don't align with, whether it be the Bloods, the Crips, whether it be motorcycle gangs, whether it be militias, anything like that, including organized crime, they have infiltrated at one time or another. They've either gotten a bug in, they've got a informant in, they've got someone in that's an undercover agent. So when you join these groups, you better go ahead and get ready to be on that list, because you're on it, whether you know it or not. If you've sent as much as a anti-government text or tweet, and when you organize and things like that, understand that everything that you do, how do you organize that? How would you contact somebody today? It'd either be in a phone call, a text message, an email. Nobody writes letters anymore. I mean,
No.
seriously, nobody writes letters. You cannot hide. You're going to be known by this government, and that immediately is going to put you on a watch list. And if you're scared about being on a watch list, and if it bothers you being on one, you need to get out of the game, because frankly, folks, you don't have the stomach for what's coming, because these folks know who you are. They've identified who I believe the number is like 1.5 million Americans that are anti-government, that they have on their watch list. That's their top people. So there's 1.5 million people that in this country that the government's scared of. So if you don't want to be on them, you better go ahead and leave that milk toast life, because that's the only way you're going to keep from it.
Good point. And so I want to be clear about something too. I'm not necessarily anti-government. We need smaller government. Government has too
Right,
much overreach. That's where
right,
I'm at with it. Like, we do
right,
need law enforcement. We do need um people to protect the citizens. We do need law, we do need order.
right,
Okay? But we need less government overreach. We need less of it in our lives. And sadly, there's nothing that we can do to stop that. All right.
I agree with you.
Now,
I'm
I
not.
mean, it would be awesome if we could all, like, flick a switch and, hey, don't spy on me today, you know.
Right,
But like Al said, us carrying around these phones, I mean, that's what it is. We are constantly being monitored, watched. I mean, and the government is not just allowing it to happen; they're the ones doing it.
right.
So
I had
that's
a
like,
man tell me, I had a man tell me one time that I do everything I can to make sure the government can't spy on me, and he had a smartphone in his hand. I said, "Well, there you go. You flunked the test right there, the very first question. I mean, I flunked it too, but you flunked it. You got a smartphone in your hand. If you got a smartphone in your hand, they know everything that you're looking, everything you Google, everybody you talk to." And he looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, "Listen, they know everything that you do. If you've done anything wrong, they know about it. When you live your life like that, that's a different way."
right. And I mean, maybe we'll do an episode on this one day about how to really work on getting out of the scenario of being reliant on technology. I think that might be a good one we could do one day.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, guys. Everything you're doing is being monitored. So, and that's a big part of this militia thing. If you get into one of these things, they are monitoring what you're doing. There is no, I mean, you're talking have to meet in person with people. Okay. No phones, conversate in person, no emails, no text messages, no nothing. Like direct human to human contact, leave all devices, in the vehicle where you're going or whatever. Don't even take them with you. Don't even leave the house with them.
Right.
I mean, but how many of us actually leave the house now and don't take our cell phones?
Right.
We all take them.
Right.
I mean, that's became our lifelines. If you break down in the car, if there's an emergency, you need to call 911, anything. Right.
Well,
So
Jester, let me ask you this. If something happened that you would need one of these militias or you would need to work together, how would you do it if you had no way to communicate?
hey, preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
How would you do it?
I think at that point you're going to revert back to just, secondary comms. You're going to revert to your hams, your CBs, your two ways.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's how you would do it. But even though there's people listening in on those.
Right. And how many of those organizations and groups, how much of a percentage of them have that ability? Or are these little tiny groups over here that call themselves a militia, that they got a couple walkie talkies and they got a CB radio and that's it? I mean, listen, I don't poo-poo on folks that want to join militias by any way, shape, or form. That's their choice. I'm just saying, if you do it, how practical is it for an actual situation that's going to happen to you or to your area? That's my only take back and my drawback on it is how effective is it? And if it's not effective, why are we wasting time on it? It's sort of like something that's not effective in my life. I'm not going to waste time on it.
No, and that's where I'm at too. I mean, the reason why I just didn't join up or didn't pursue any of these things is I feel like I don't need it.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, if shit breaks bad, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting my happy ass right here. I'm gonna go hunt. I'm gonna go fish. I'm gonna, work on my food stocks, work on my garden, make sure my kids are safe, make sure, my family's safe. And if I have a couple good people that end up showing up to help out, awesome. That's it. I mean, and there's not much more I think you can do or should be doing outside of that.
Right.
And
You're a
don't
small
fall.
community.
Yeah, don't fall into the cult-like sense of having to do this and having to have a leader and like don't do that shit.
Nope. Nope.
And I think a lot of people get confused,
Nope.
with this topic. So just understand, big difference between militias and cults, but a lot of these guys end up having a cult-like following.
If you need someone to be your leader, and you're just a follower, then I don't want you with me. I'll say that up front. If you have to have someone to be your leader and you just want to be a follower, you can't be with me, because the only people I want in my group are people that can be the leader right now. Okay. If something happens, you need to be able to lead and lead yourself and lead other people. That's my inner circle of people that I know they can say, hold on just a minute. That's bullshit. I'm going to do this. No, hold on. I don't need followers. I don't want followers. I'm pretty sure Jester doesn't want followers. You want people that are equal participants in what you're doing. If you're following someone, whether it be in a militia or any other group, whether it be a cult, and you have to have that follower to tell you what to do, you really need to think about what you're doing. Give it real strong consideration of getting away from that, because I don't have a leader. The only leader I've got is God himself. Other than that, I have no leader. But I don't want to lead people either. You know what I'm saying? I think should be able to think for yourself. And if you're in a group, whether it be a militia or anything else, where someone does the thinking for you, you need to reconsider where you're at. I'll
Exactly.
leave it at that.
And if you really, really need a leader, just get married.
Right,
Your
right. Because
spouse will be your leader.
right, I think I'm running stuff till she tells me what to do. I really do. I think I'm running shit. I tell you all the time, I'm running stuff. No, I ain't running nothing. No, I ain't running nothing but my mouth. Because whenever she taps her glass and I go get her a glass of ice, I know I'm not running nothing. So
Yeah, so final verdict, because we're coming up on our time frame here, but final verdict on these militias, guys. I understand, the idea of romanticizing these groups, especially for an apocalyptic scenario. I get it. Be very careful if you decide to go to this route.
right,
I am not saying I don't support your decision making in doing it, but I could tell you I won't do one, and I have strong reasons why I won't be in one.
right.
That's it. You know. And I think Al's probably kind of aligning with me on that for the most part.
Yeah, I can say that there was a lot of things I could have put in this show. But it's only 45 minutes, and I find trouble filling the 45 minutes because of the fact that things are told to me in privacy, things are told to me in secrecy, things are told to me that I don't need to dispel, so I can't use that information. I found out a lot more this week than I wanted to say because I can't. But I will tell you that if you're going into this thinking that you're going to get with a clan of people that are going to be able to help you, understand they're a long ways off from you. I won't discredit you for going and joining one of these groups, but I'm just saying for your practicality of prepping, you have to look at it, see if it's going to fit into what you need to do. And then also look at who you are and what you're doing. A lot of this is not practical for preppers. It really isn't. I found out it's not practical for me. I don't poo-poo on the idea of joining one. I have friends that have been associated with and are still presently associated with them, but I don't feel the need to do it myself.
And one last thing I'd like to say before we do get out of here, because I am not in a militia, because I'm not geared into this. I would love if somebody would like to reach out, email us that may be in one, and if they would like to come on and be a guest and tell us more, because maybe things go deeper than what we know of.
Right. And Jester, that person could be absolutely anonymity, not
Right. We
I
won't
don't
put
want
your
them to be
name out
sought
there,
out.
nothing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we will,
Anonymity.
it doesn't go beyond this platform,
No, it sure doesn't. I don't
Um,
even want to know if they contact you, Jester. I don't even want to know who they are. So
right.
that's how secretive I would like to keep it, because I don't want that person to be identified by anybody, not the government or anybody else. But I would love to hear from somebody that's actually been involved with for a long time, that's willing to give you information, because I'm not willing to say what was said to me. I'm just not going to do that. But I would love someone to come on for that.
Absolutely. All right. And with that said, we're out of here, guys. I hope, once again, happy Easter to everybody.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.